the purpose of this call, right? Okay,
Okay.
great. So, as a labor relations coordinator at Netflix, so you have pretty much given a good detail about what you actually do on a regular basis. So, are you managing a team in this role?
No, I wasn't.
Okay.
Um, um, it was I mean, just speaking honestly, it was a step back in terms of um, responsibilities from previous
Okay.
companies.
Yeah.
I expected there to be more growth, and there really wasn't. They kept hiring from outside, and my responsibilities were continually like sort of narrowed down. So
Mm-hmm.
it's hard. I was not so I was not managing a team, although I was the like the senior coordinator. So the other coordinators, I did a lot of training and
Mm-hmm.
and ensured that they were able to contribute right away.
Okay. Okay, makes sense. And so you have mentioned you research, compile, and prepare data for use in grievance hearings, arbitration proceedings. So, researching and compiling data. So, yeah. So, what sort of data was it? And did you people have any internal resources like internal, I would say, database or something like that to take help from, or was that simply a Google search?
It was from a wide variety of sources. So
Mm-hmm.
use internal databases. We also use external databases like payroll companies, um, and uh, and um, and solicited information from industry partners.
Okay.
Um,
Okay. Mhm.
and you asked what kind of data it was.
Yeah.
Uh, it was it, there's a lot of different kinds of data like salary data, um, uh, wage and compensation data. Um,
Mm-hmm.
what else? Um, uh, um, like it's hard because a lot of it's proprietary. So it's like back end participation, residuals,
Mm-hmm.
um,
Okay.
um, uh, yeah, profit participation, things like that.
Okay. Okay. And so apart from, researching and preparing this data, were you also involved or assisting with the negotiation part as well?
Um, I was present during the negotiations, but I didn't lead negotiations or really participate. I was just present there. So I learned a lot
Okay.
by being present and watching
Mm-hmm.
negotiations take place, but I wasn't trusted with actually doing any participation in it. Um,
Okay. Mm-hmm. So, while you were not participating in those discussions or negotiations, but later did you try to, recommend some strategies to the management or, whatever the lead coordinators were? Like, did you try to suggest or recommend some strategies?
it's a good question. Yes, on occasion.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Okay. And so, can you share a particular example in that case?
um, the problem is they're in negotiations right now, so
Mm-hmm.
they wouldn't want it getting out what those are. Um,
Okay. So yeah, so you cannot share like if you think you cannot share the exact what the negotiation was all about. So I think if you could probably just share that what was your contribution towards that negotiation was like if they were lacking something and you helped them with with suggesting a certain strategy that this could be done to achieve a better negotiation, or a consensus among the labor and the management, or any such thing that you have recommended without giving away much information.
Okay. Um, I'll have to think about that.
Hmm.
Um, hmm.
Like it could even be something regarding improving the relationship between the labor and the management, or to settle some, or I would say, dispute, or even settling some negotiation.
Um, yeah, I mean, the problem is I didn't really have a lot of participation in that.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's hard. Yeah, I'm
Okay.
sorry.
Mhm. No, no, that's okay, that's perfectly fine, no problem at all. Okay. And so, since you were not just participating in those discussions, but did you, on your own, did you had to maintain some relationships with the labor side?
Yes,
Mm-hmm.
yes,
Okay,
absolutely.
great.
Yeah, I
And
needed
so, what did that involve? Like, yeah.
outreach, coordinating, um, conversations, and ensuring that there's goodwill on either side. Um,
Mm-hmm.
uh, um, yeah, just being responsive to their inquiries and needs, and keeping keeping ensuring that there were good labor relations on both sides, I guess.
Okay. And so, were you like this the first point of contact that they reached out to if they needed, if they had any certain needs, or they wanted to communicate something to the company, the management?
Yeah, good question. Yes, I was often the first point of contact for the union reps,
Okay.
um, when they
Okay,
needed
that's great.
stuff.
And
Yeah.
mhm. Okay, perfect. And so, what did your outreach involve? Like, how were you reaching out to them? Was that setting up, meetings with them, or just calling someone to know how things are going, or just maintaining open communication with them?
Yeah, maintaining open communication, making sure I was available, and that I had good ongoing relationships with them. That I made an effort to know who they were, and what their interests
Hmm.
were, and everything, and just so that we were familiar and we could reach out and resolve things quickly and amicably.
Okay, okay, great. And so, did you have to conduct any sort of analysis to assess that if they whatever their demands are, if they are, if they could be met by the company in some way, like if the company is capable enough to meet their demands, and any such analysis that you had to conduct?
Yes, all the time. Yeah, we would consult with our internal partners to determine whether what the union was demanding or asking for was um, sustainable or appropriate within the budget confines that we had, and whether we wanted to set,
Hmm.
whether there were risks of setting precedent or not. So,
Okay, perfect. And so, which were some of these internal partners?
um, I think I put them in my resume. Um, I think maybe I didn't. Finance, production, post production, creative. Um,
Mhm.
HR. Um,
Okay.
yeah, I'd say those are the major ones. Business and legal affairs.
Okay, perfect. And so, since there are some HR roles out there available as well that might be of interest to you, so was there any particular way through which you were helping HR in, setting up some policies or anything like that for the labor?
Um, we'd involve HR when there were like HR tangential matters, um, like things like employee discipline or something like that. But we were mostly we would consult with them and then offer our opinion and when they would consult with us. But there wasn't a lot of like assistance there, like me performing HR duties. Um,
Mm-hmm. Okay.
um, but
Let's
but
collaborate with them if they need any assistance.
yes, yeah.
Okay, perfect. Okay, and so administer guild and signatory setup for production entities. So can you just explain this a bit more?
Which part?
The administer guild and signatory setup for
Oh,
production entities part. Yeah.
yeah. So when a television or movie gets the green light, we have
Mm-hmm.
to reach out. We have to reach out to the unions, and there's a bunch of paperwork that has to be filled out in order to become union signatory, meaning that we can employ union members, their union members. So they ask for things like um, a deposit to cover their salaries in case the
Mm-hmm.
production company goes belly up, that kind of thing. They ask for uh, the chain of title, meaning like they want to make sure that it's been copyrighted appropriately and that they understand exactly the flow of the intellectual property. Um,
Mm-hmm.
they they ask for a bunch of information on who we're hiring and when production is, production details, that kind of stuff. So it's just a whole package of paperwork for each union, and I think there's something like on a given production there can be anywhere between 7 and 12 to 15 unions, so 7 to 15 unions that you're setting that up for. Um, so it's a long process and a lot to track and keep tabs on, and everything's under pretty strict deadlines. Just once production is greenlit, it moves pretty quickly. So
Okay. Okay, great. And so research and respond to SAG-AFTRA background performance claims. So yeah, so what sort of background performance claims were these?
so things like they would claim that they worked in smoke, and they're owed extra money because there was smoke on the set, or that were in a they were in a fight when they were only hired as a background, so they were due a stunt salary bump, or they were given a line. These background performers aren't supposed to speak, but if they are given a line, then they're supposed to be paid as a day player, meaning a much higher salary. So you have to go and you have to
Mhm.
review the footage and the dailies and determine whether their claims are valid or not.
Okay, okay, makes sense. Great. And this is really interesting that create and maintain an internal website that tracks, catalogs, ongoing labor trends worldwide. So yeah, so tell me something about this. Like, how did you come up with this idea?
Yeah, it was really interesting. Netflix is really focused on growing production locally and wherever our service is offered. So, but we didn't really understand a lot about how labor relations operated in areas throughout the rest of the world, like Australia or Europe or Asia or Central America or South America, etc. So we needed a place to track all this information and not only track it, but start to compile and gather information. So it was a big project. I created the website, and you can it was a big like a map, and you can click on any territory, and it'll take you to like a breakdown of the different guilds and unions in the area, like their strength and pervasiveness, tips on dealing with the unions, all stuff that we gathered by speaking to locals on the ground, productions, and local council. So it was a big project, and I was the one who, when I got there was nothing. We had no information on anything about that, and then when I left, I think it was in a pretty good spot. So
Okay, that sounds amazing. And so what tools did you use to create this website?
um, uh, various like it was like a Google site, so various like
Hmm.
um, um, uh, I think it tracked. Also used Airtable, so it was a Google site and Airtable, and used Airtable
Hmm.
um, and it was really me just like playing with the functionality of that, making sure it was easy to use and easy to read and navigate and stuff.
Okay, great. And so, since you were there only for hardly 2 years, but then during this time, like, did you observe any improvement in production that the company wanted to achieve across regions by having this website in place?
Yes, the productions and our legal and business affairs were able to use it to really increase the efficiency and effectiveness of their dealing with local unions. So I would say yes. It's hard to with labor relations stuff like that. It's hard to put it into
Yeah,
like
the
concrete.
quantify anything. Yeah.
Yeah, but we did get constantly good feedback about it. So
Okay, that sounds amazing. And then you also created a digital library of collective bargaining agreements. So yeah, what did this help with?
so this was we labor relations executives are mostly old school. We have like a library of books that we consult when we're dealing with labor issues when we need to consult with the agreement. But
Mm-hmm.
I I made another Google site, an internal one for our department that had like um, it was more involved. It had like recent labor relations news. It had information on all the guilds. It had a guild directory, so you can click and find the people that you needed to contact pretty easily. It also had this um, depository of digital agreements, so you can word search it, and you didn't have to like thumb through a physical copy of a book. And that took me going to all the unions and trying to coerce them into giving me a digital copy. And then, when new agreements were executed, and updating the inventory and making sure it was always up to date and available and accurate.
Okay, that's amazing. And can you say that it really helped improve the legal search in that way?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
Okay, great. Okay, and then you also created cheat sheets, memos, and information materials for internal partners. So, by internal partners, we again mean the internal departments that you had to collaborate with.
Yes.
Okay. And so, how were these helpful for them? Like, what sort of material was this?
So it was, for example, like our post team, post production, the people who hire like editors and everyone who works on the film after it's been filmed.
Mhm.
They had a bunch of questions on navigating the Editors Guild agreement. So I created like a frequently asked questions document that went over all their questions, and met with them, consulted with them over this series of a few months, and produced something that really helped their team understand how to hire and employ editors on their projects. Um, so that improved the efficiency um, of their and of their hiring and retention of editors, I guess. I'd also do
Mhm.
things like make like cheat sheets on when the rules surrounding firing an employee or terminating an employee due to cause or just canceling a call due to weather or things like that. So it was just document where you can go and if something happened during production, you wanted to see what rules surrounded telling the employee that they weren't supposed to come in the next day, then you can just find that population and do the rules. So it's just a summary like that. Um, Different things like memos on how to pay and hire accountants um, for our films. There are just a lot of memos like that that we distributed to everyone who touches production. And I would say
Mhm.
that improves the effectiveness of of maybe not the maybe the more like the efficiency of 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 how you pay an employee or work your crews and workforce.
Mhm.
Um,
Okay.
yeah, yeah,
Okay.
a lot of memos, a lot of cheat sheets, things like how to when you hire someone from Connecticut and you bring them down to Texas to work, how does that work? Like with regard to union affiliation and stuff like that. So traveling employees. So yeah, it's just information sharing.
Okay. And so, you had to compile data for grievance hearings as well. So, since you were the first point of contact for the union for the labor, so were you also involved in this grievance hearings, like, or you were the first point of contact with whom they share if they had any grievances in the first place?
I was often the first point of contact, but I didn't. Um, I I I wasn't handling them like going to the grievance hearings and stuff. They had more senior employees do that.
Okay. Okay. Perfect. Okay, and so anything else then from this particular role of yours that you think we haven't discussed so far, or something that could be worth mentioning for the resume?
Um, I mean, I took advantage
Any?
of
Yeah.
oh, sorry.
Hmm.
They had a lot of professional growth opportunities, like things like um, public speaking tutorials and negotiation seminars and things like that I took advantage of. I don't know if that's worth mentioning. I mean, things that I participated in that helped grow my professional
Okay.
skill set. Um,
Okay. And so, what sort
uh,
of seminars did you attend?
like habitus negotiation seminars,
Hmm.
um, and and what's the name of that firm? It's a communication and public speaking series of workshops um,
Okay.
that helps you refine your communication methods. Um, I and then what else? I guess that's it off the top of my head.